Have you ever looked around at your life and realized that no matter how many people you surround yourself with, something inside you remains completely, devastatingly alone? Not the kind of alone that comes from an empty room, the kind that comes from a crowded one, the kind where you are laughing, nodding, performing, and yet somewhere beneath all of that, there is a silence so vast it terrifies you. You have had relationships, friendships, connections that seemed real, and yet they always reach a point where something breaks, where the distance returns, where you find yourself once again on the other side of a wall you didn't even know you were building. And the question that haunts you, the one you don't say out loud because saying it feels like admitting defeat, is this: why does it always end up this way? Why does it always end up with me, alone? I want to tell you something that perhaps no one has had the courage to say directly. The answer is not out there. It is not in the people who left. It is not in bad luck, bad timing, or the wrong circumstances. The answer is inside you, in a place Carl Jung called the unconscious. And until you face what lives there, you will keep recreating the same distance, the same walls, the same ending, no matter who walks into your life. This is not an accusation. It is an invitation. Because the moment you understand why you always end up alone, everything becomes possible. You were not born afraid of connection. No one is. As a child, you reached out instinctively, openly, without strategy or self-protection. You wanted to be seen, to be held, to be known completely by someone else. That desire is the most human thing that exists. But at some point, something happened. Maybe it was sudden, maybe it was slow, accumulated over years of small moments that each seemed insignificant on their own. A parent who was emotionally unavailable, a friendship that ended in betrayal, a love that made you feel more alone than being alone ever did. A moment when you opened yourself fully and the response you received taught you that being open was dangerous. And so you learned, the way all intelligent, sensitive people learn. You adapted, you built structures, you developed ways of being that protected you from ever feeling that particular pain again. You became self-sufficient, independent, capable. You told yourself you didn't need much from others, that you were fine on your own, that people always disappoint in the end. Carl Jung called this adaptation the construction of the persona, the mask we build to navigate the world safely. And on the surface, it works beautifully. You function, you succeed, you appear whole. But underneath the persona, in the territory Jung called the shadow, lives everything you buried to survive. The need, the vulnerability, the desperate longing to be truly known, and the terror, the absolute terror, that if anyone ever saw that part of you, they would leave. So you keep it hidden, even from yourself. And this is where the cycle begins. Here is the pattern, and I want you to recognize yourself in it honestly. Someone enters your life. There is warmth, possibility, the feeling of being understood. For a moment, the wall comes down slightly. You feel something you haven't felt in a long time: hope. And then, almost without realizing it, you begin to manage the connection. You give enough to seem open, but not so much that you are exposed. You test, subtly, waiting to see when they will disappoint you, because some part of you already believes they will. You pull back slightly when things get too close. You create reasons, logical, reasonable-sounding reasons, for why this person is not quite right, why the timing is off, why something feels missing. And slowly, inevitably, the distance returns. Sometimes they leave. Sometimes you push them away so gradually that neither of you fully understands what happened, and you are left once again with that familiar silence. And a part of you is almost relieved. Jung was precise about this mechanism. He said that what we cannot face within ourselves, we project onto the world around us. The fear of abandonment becomes a constant scanning for signs that abandonment is coming. The belief that you are fundamentally too much or not enough becomes a filter through which every interaction is processed. You do not experience people as they are. You experience them as your wounds expect them to be. This is not weakness. This is not failure. This is the unconscious doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you from pain by keeping you in the only emotional territory it knows how to navigate, the territory of distance. But here is what no one tells you about the unconscious. It does not distinguish between the past and the present. It does not know that you are no longer a child who needed those defenses. It does not know that the person standing in front of you today is not the one who hurt you years ago. It only knows the pattern, and it repeats it, faithfully, mercilessly, until you wake up. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is why it always ends the same way. Not because you are cursed, not because love is impossible for you, but because you are running an old program in a new situation, expecting a different result, and wondering why the outcome never changes. The loneliness you feel is not a consequence of others failing you. It is a consequence of a part of you that does not yet believe connection is safe. And that part will sabotage every relationship, every friendship, every moment of genuine closeness, not out of cruelty, but out of an ancient, exhausted devotion to keeping you protected. And the cruelest irony is this: the very strategies that were meant to keep you safe from pain are the ones generating the pain you most fear. The wall you built to prevent abandonment is the thing that makes genuine connection impossible. The self-sufficiency you developed to never need anyone has left you with no one. You built a prison and called it independence. Now, I want to go deeper, because there is something underneath even this that most people never examine. Something that drives the entire cycle from a level so fundamental it feels like identity, like simply the way you are. Jung identified what he called the complex, a cluster of emotionally charged beliefs, memories and patterns gathered around a central wound. And the most common complex, the one that quietly destroys more relationships than any other, is the belief formed in early life that love is conditional, that you are acceptable only when you perform correctly, only when you are useful, strong, pleasant, undemanding, that your authentic self, the one with needs and fears and contradictions, is too much, too difficult, not enough. This belief does not announce itself. It operates in the background, silently shaping every interaction. It is why you over-explain yourself, why you apologize when you haven't done anything wrong, why you shrink your needs to make others comfortable, why you give endlessly to people who take without reciprocating, because somewhere inside you believe that love must be earned, and you are afraid that if you stop performing, it will be withdrawn. And it is why, when someone genuinely loves you without conditions, without requiring the performance, you do not trust it. It feels wrong, too easy, unearned. Your nervous system cannot locate itself in a dynamic that doesn't involve striving and uncertainty. So you create uncertainty, you push, you test, you withdraw, until the relationship begins to mirror the one your nervous system recognizes as real. This is not madness, this is adaptation. But it is adaptation to an environment that no longer exists. And recognizing it, truly seeing it in yourself without judgment, is the first act of liberation. Who are you when no one is watching? Not the version of you that performs competence or warmth or strength. Not the version that manages impressions and carefully controls how much of yourself you reveal. Who are you in the silence? In the 3 a.m. moments when the mask has nowhere to hide? Most people have never met that person. They have spent so long maintaining the persona that the self underneath has become a stranger. And you cannot genuinely connect with another person when you are not genuinely connected to yourself. Because what you offer in relationship is only ever what you have access to internally. If internally there is a locked room, a part of you that has never been seen, never been accepted, never been integrated, then every connection you make will have a ceiling, a point beyond which you cannot go without the locked room becoming visible. Jung called the process of unlocking that room individuation, the journey toward wholeness, not perfection, not the absence of wounds, but the integration of all parts of yourself, including the parts you buried, the parts you are ashamed of, the parts that need and grieve and rage and tremble. Individuation is not comfortable. It requires you to stop running from the very things you have spent years outrunning. It requires you to look at the loneliness not as something that happens to you, but as something that is trying to tell you something. Because loneliness is a messenger. And if you are willing to listen to it rather than silence it, it will show you exactly where the work is. The loneliness you feel in a crowded room is telling you that you are not fully present in that room, that some part of you has already left, already protected itself, already retreated behind the glass. The loneliness you feel after intimacy, that strange, hollow feeling that descends even after a moment of genuine connection, is telling you that connection still feels dangerous. That part of you is waiting for the withdrawal, the punishment, the proof that it was foolish to open. The loneliness you feel when someone loves you, truly loves you, and yet you still cannot receive it, that is the deepest signal of all. It is telling you that somewhere inside you do not yet believe you deserve to be fully held. These are not character flaws, they are wounds. And wounds, Jung understood, do not heal through avoidance. They heal through integration, through the willingness to look directly at them and say, I see you, you are part of me, and I am no longer going to pretend you do not exist. There is a moment in every relationship, every real one, where the surface runs out, where small talk and shared activities and the comfortable rituals of early connection no longer fill the space. And what is required at that moment is depth, the willingness to be seen beyond the curated version, to say something true and frightening and wait in the silence to see if you are still accepted. Most people run from that moment. They fill it with noise, with humor, with busyness. They redirect, deflect, perform, because that moment of potential depth is also a moment of potential rejection. And for those of us who learned early that our authentic self was unsafe, that moment feels like standing at the edge of something with no visible bottom. But here is what waits on the other side of that moment, if you can tolerate it. Real intimacy, not the performance of closeness, but the actual thing, the experience of being known, truly known, with all your contradictions and shadows, and remaining held. That experience does not just change a relationship, it changes you. It rewrites slowly and profoundly the story your nervous system carries about what connection means and what it costs. Jung understood that we do not find ourselves in isolation. We find ourselves in relationship, but only in the kind of relationship where we are willing to bring our whole self, not just the acceptable parts. The shadow must be seen. Not necessarily all at once, not recklessly, but gradually, courageously, with people who have earned that access. And this is why the work is not about finding the right person. It is about becoming someone who can receive what the right person offers. Because love that you cannot receive is love that cannot reach you. And love that cannot reach you leaves you, once again, alone. So let me ask you something I want you to sit with, rather than answer quickly. What would it mean to stop being alone? Not just to have company or connection or someone nearby. What would it mean to be genuinely, completely not alone? To be known at the level where there are no more locked rooms, no more managed impressions, no more careful rationing of yourself. For most people, that question creates immediate anxiety because it sounds like exposure, like danger, like the end of all the protection they have carefully built. But I want you to consider a different interpretation. What if not being alone simply means being fully present, to yourself first and then to others? What if the aloneness you have been living is not a consequence of others failing you, but a consequence of you not yet being willing to fully arrive in your own life? Jung said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But you cannot be transformed by a connection you are managing from behind a wall. You can only be transformed by a connection you are actually inside of, present, unguarded, real. This is the part where most people want a technique, a list of steps, a practical strategy to follow. And I understand that impulse. It feels safer to have a method, something to do with your hands. But the truth is that what is required here is not a technique. It is a decision. The decision to stop performing and start being. The decision to let someone, beginning with yourself, see the parts of you that you have kept in the dark. This does not mean emotional recklessness. It does not mean tearing down every wall at once and flooding the people around you with everything you have suppressed. Jung was not advocating for that. What he was advocating for was conscious, intentional relationship with your own inner life. The willingness to sit with discomfort instead of fleeing it. To notice when you are retreating and ask yourself honestly what you are afraid of. Because fear is always at the root. Fear that if they really knew you, they would not stay. Fear that your need is too great, your wounds too deep, your darkness too much. Fear that the love you want is simply not available for someone like you. And here is what I want you to hear. That fear makes complete sense given what you have been through. It is not irrational. It is a logical response to a history that taught you certain things about what connection means and what it costs. But history is not destiny. The unconscious can be made conscious. The pattern can be interrupted. The wound can be met, not with more armor, but with awareness. Jung spoke about the shadow, all the parts of ourselves we have rejected, disowned, and buried, as the doorway to wholeness, not the obstacle, the doorway. Because within the shadow lies not only the pain, but the unlived life, the capacity for depth, for intimacy, for the kind of connection that does not stay on the surface because both people have been willing to go somewhere real. The people who experience the deepest connections are not the ones who have the least wounds. They are the ones who have been willing to look at their wounds clearly and say, "This is part of me, and I will not let it make my decisions anymore." They are the ones who have learned to tolerate the vulnerability of being seen, not because it stopped being frightening, but because they chose something more important than safety. They chose presence, actual, unguarded, trembling presence. And that is available to you, not after you are healed, not after you have everything figured out. Now, in this exact condition, with all the walls and the wounds and the exhaustion and the longing, the cycle ends not when the right person arrives. The cycle ends when you decide to stop being unavailable to yourself. Because the deepest connection you will ever experience is not with another person. It is with the whole of who you are. And from that foundation, from that place of genuine self-knowledge and self-acceptance, the connections you build with others will finally have somewhere real to land. Jung said that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, but it is also the most liberating. You have spent long enough alone in a crowd. You have spent long enough performing closeness while keeping the door locked from the inside. You have spent long enough waiting for someone safe enough to open to, while quietly ensuring that no one ever quite gets close enough to find the lock. That ends when you decide it ends. Not dramatically, not all at once, but in the small, daily, terrifying practice of choosing presence over protection, of saying something true when the easier thing would be to deflect, of staying in the room when every instinct tells you to leave, of letting yourself be seen, imperfect, unfinished, real, and discovering that the world does not end. It begins with you. It has always begun with you, and it begins now. Write in the comments, "I am ready to come home." Let's see how many here are truly ready to end the cycle. And do not stop now. The next video continues this journey exactly where this one ends. You need to keep going.